You are readable. And the moment someone can read you, they can move you. There is a person in your life right now, not smarter than you, not more talented, not working harder, but they walk away with what they wanted every time, and you leave explaining yourself. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli watched the most powerful men in Italy destroy each other. He wrote it all down, not as revenge, as a record. The people who kept losing were often the most honest ones in the room. 6 rules. You'll recognize all of them, because you've been on the wrong side of every one. And at the end, there is a 7th rule, one he left out entirely. We'll come back to it. Machiavelli was tortured by men who feared what he knew. He survived. Lesson 1. Here is how you hand someone control over you, without knowing it. You react, not dramatically, not obviously, just consistently. They say something slightly critical, your jaw tightens. They ignore you in a meeting, you over-explain in the next one. They go cold, you go warmer, trying to fix what you don't even know you broke. Every reaction is data, and the people paying attention are building a map of you in real time. Once they have the map, they know where to push. They know what flatters you into saying yes. They know what makes you feel guilty for things you didn't do. He watched princes fall not to stronger armies, but to advisors who simply understood them better than they understood themselves. They didn't need power. They needed a map. And you gave them one every time you reacted. Borgia was the most feared man in Italy. He fell not because someone outfought him, but because someone had finished reading him. He watched honesty get used as a weapon against the honest person. Recall the last conversation you left explaining yourself. A comment that put you on defense. A silence that made you fill the space. A question that made you justify something you had already decided. That moment, that small, involuntary moment, was data. Someone collected it. Instinct and strategy produced the same result. You became more readable. It is about becoming deliberate. Earn the right to be read. Don't give it away for free. The moment someone cannot predict your next move, they have to recalculate. And recalculation costs them time, certainty, and confidence. Most people never feel it happening. They only notice when it's already done. Lesson 2. Now watch what silence actually does. Someone in a meeting implies your work was sloppy, indirect, plausible deniability. The natural response? You explain. You justify. You give context. And for the next 40 seconds, you are performing for them. They lean back slightly because they got what they wanted. Not information, not your defense. Control. Now watch what happens when you don't fill the silence. You look at them, calmly. You say nothing. The room goes quiet. 3 seconds. 5. Now they are uncomfortable. They start talking. They over-explain what they meant. They walk back the implication. You didn't fight. You didn't defend. The silence did all the work. In the court of Lorenzo de' Medici, silence was currency. The advisors who lasted longest were the ones who knew when to say nothing. In every performance review, every negotiation, every confrontation, The first person to fill the silence gives the other person something to work with. Have you ever been in an argument where you explained yourself so completely, covered every angle, addressed every objection, and still lost? That's not because your explanation was wrong. It's because explaining was the wrong move. The moment you start justifying, the other person doesn't need to make a case. You're making it for them. You're doing their work. And when you've finished, they simply pick the weakest part and press there. The most dangerous person in any room is not the one with the most to say. It is the one who is comfortable saying nothing at all. The third rule is the one people argue with, until it happens to them. Lesson 3. This one is why even the people closest to you become a liability, if you're not careful. You shared something once, in a moment of trust, a fear, a frustration, an ambition you hadn't told anyone else. It felt like connection. It was an inventory. Someone tells a colleague, "I'm terrified of losing this account. It keeps me up at night." 3 weeks later, in a meeting with the director, that colleague uses it. "I think the stress around this account might be affecting the team's judgment." No accusation, no cruelty, just precision. They weren't malicious. They were strategic. And they could only be strategic because you gave them the ammunition. He wrote that men who confide too freely are not displaying trust. They are displaying a need to be trusted. And that need, once visible, can be satisfied or withheld by whoever noticed it first. This happens in friendships that last for years, until one person realizes the other has been keeping score. There is someone in your life who knows exactly what to say to make you doubt what you already decided. They didn't guess. They remembered. Something you said when you were tired, when you were frustrated, when you were trying to connect. They stored it. Not deliberately, maybe, but when the moment came, it was available. Your private information is not a gift. It is a resource. No one told you this. They preferred you not to know. You have done this to others without realizing it. And it has been done to you. Use this to protect yourself, not to become the thing you're learning to recognize. Before you share something important, ask one question. What could they do with this if they decided to? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, wait. The fourth rule is the one that changes every conversation you'll ever have. Lesson 4. This one sounds too simple to be true. And then you try it and realize exactly why it works. Someone provokes you. Maybe it's an insult disguised as a joke. Maybe it's a claim they know is false. Maybe it's silence designed to make you anxious. The moment you react emotionally, you have given them the one thing they needed. Not information, not a concession. Certainty. They now know exactly where you are, what state you're in, how to manage what comes next. An emotional person is predictable. A predictable person is manageable. A manageable person has already lost. When Pope Julius II threatened Borgia, his generals erupted. Outrage, counter-threats, declarations of loyalty. Borgia said nothing for 3 days. In those 3 days, Julius revealed everything. Who would negotiate? What he actually wanted? That the threat was partially a test. When Borgia finally responded, Julius had already answered every question. The person who reacts first tells the other person everything. The person who waits gets to choose what they reveal and when. Remember the last time you responded before you finished thinking. Notice what it cost you. The pause between provocation and response is the moment you choose your next move instead of having it chosen for you. Skip it, and you hand them the outcome. There is one situation where this pause will cost you everything. That's not in this video. 3 rules, 3 patterns. You've probably lived all of them. 2 left. And the 7th? We'll get there. Lesson 5. You make a decision. Someone demands to know why. You explain. They challenge the reasoning. You defend it. They find a new angle. 20 minutes later, you are exhausted, somehow guilty, somehow wrong, even though you started knowing you were right. Here is what happened. The moment you agreed to justify yourself, you accepted the premise that your decision required their approval. And once that premise is established, approval can always be withheld. Justification can always be rejected. Explanations can always be found insufficient. He documented this in every court he studied. The leaders who lasted longest were not the ones with the best arguments. They were the ones who understood that justification is a form of submission. When you explain yourself to someone who is not asking for information, but for dominance, you have entered a game you cannot win by playing better. You can only win by not playing. There is a difference between communicating with someone who needs information and performing for someone who is demanding justification as a way of asserting control. When it's the second one, the answer is not a better explanation. Think about someone who consistently makes you feel like your decisions need to be defended, where the bar keeps moving, where the explanation you gave last time is never quite enough for next time. That's not confusion. That's a system. And the only exit from that system is to stop providing input. There are 4 words that end this game immediately. I've made my decision. Said calmly, without aggression, without apology. Then silence. The person who needed your justification to feel power over you suddenly has nothing to push against. You didn't fight. You didn't argue. You simply declined to perform. The last rule is the one most people never get to use, because they run out of patience before they need it. Lesson 6. Everything before this requires one thing you've been trained not to have: patience. Speed looks like strength. It rarely is. Borgia's enemies celebrated when they thought they had cornered him. They called in favors, made alliances, told the story of his defeat before it had finished happening. And in that celebration, they stopped watching. Quick revenge looks like strength. Machiavelli knew it was a trap. They told the story before you even responded. The ones who wait are already repositioning while the other side celebrates. Think about the last time someone did something to you that you felt demanded an immediate response. What if you had waited 30 days? Not to forgive, not to forget, but to let the other person stop preparing for you. The most effective move is the one they never saw coming, because they stopped watching. When someone believes they have won, truly believes it, they stop defending. They explain to other people what happened. They stop monitoring the situation. They move on. And you move differently. The long game is not about patience as virtue. It is about patience as strategy. Let them think they won. They're not wrong. Yet. Right now, Somewhere in your life, someone believes they won. There was someone in your mind when you started watching this. The person who always walks away with what they wanted. The one who always knows exactly where to press. They knew at least one of these 6 rules, probably more. And now, so do you. The question is simple. How many times have you already lost this game without knowing you were in it? Which of the 6 hit hardest? Drop the number in the comments. The 7th rule, the one Machiavelli left out entirely, it's in the next video. And it is the most dangerous of all. Machiavelli wrote this in 1513. Not one thing about human nature has changed. The only difference now is that you know it too.